Chuffy 1 2. You can still hear myself in the headphones. Chuffy 1 2. Chuffy 1 2. Monitor off. Close. Check. Chuffy 1 2. You can hear me out there in Chuffy land. Close. Check. Chuffy 1 2. You can hear me out there in Chuffy land. It looks alright, it's not quite... That's not quite, is it? It looks alright, it's not quite... That's not quite, is it? It looks alright, it's not quite... That's not... It's very close, very close. Can't get my head around that. Because you know we've got that other camera, don't you? We've got that other camera. Let me turn it on and I'll show you. Because you know we've got that other camera, don't you? We've got that other camera. Let me... Got that other camera, look, this... Call this one the dog cam. That camera is out of sync with this camera. We discovered that, didn't we, last stream? Well, since that last stream, I've done a YouTube stream. You can see in the Johnny Depp hat there in the chair. There's the old Quest. Been playing the Quest on YouTube. Used that camera and the Behringer sound system, which is what we're talking through now. Microphone, not the same microphone, different microphone, but they're the same. Going through the same box, same input, same thing. So that and the microphone are in sync. This and the microphone is just madness, isn't it? Can't figure it out. Can't figure it out. Anyhow, you don't need to talk about that now, do you? Hi, you're with Scott. This is Ganja Kid, my stream. It's 6 o'clock on the UK time. It's 18:19. It's your left ear. It's your right ear. Hopefully the microphone won't keep doing any popping and shuffling. Cleaned up the wires a bit, tidied them up a bit. Hopefully it won't keep doing any popping and shuffling. Yeah, what we're doing today is we've got my watch later list. Got the watch later list, and I've decided we're going to do the top 10 games everyone should play at least once by Metal Jesus Rocks. I need a little bit of Jesus in my life today. Personally, I'll just tell you, I'm Ganja Kid. There's our... Go to YouTube. Find us on YouTube. Come here. Whichever way. There's Ganja Kid. That's our channel. And we've got this other bit at the bottom, down the bottom there. Look, Ganji Pukawari Media. Ganji Cuts. I edit stuff, put it on there. Edit stuff, put it on there. Learn sword skills. Oh, I talked about how I used to be a fencer. I showed you the basics of saber fencing in virtual reality. Haven't seen that on the stream. That was a recorded one. That's up there now. Got that. Oh. You can also go to Ganja Kid Art Chats if you want to hear something a bit more cultured, a bit more nuanced, about pixel goring games or the evolution of rave music, Crying Over Moonlighter. Oh, it was such a good game. I did a little review. Nikocado Avocadio is a genius and Kavos is a fat bully. And loads of people wanted to watch that compared to the others. But please do go and watch the things on the old YouTubes at your leisure at some point. They're there for you. We've got Mental Health Monday. We've got Ganji Clips. Mental Health Monday every Monday, 8 PM GMT. I'm Ganji Kid. This is what we're doing. Got to get around to making an ASMR video one of these days. And topping up the True Binaural ASMR subscribers with a bit of love. Got to get around to doing that. There's been a couple of news stories today. Not today, over the last weeks. They've been in the news about poor children who have had sad things. Hello, Pastor. Nice to see you. Nice to have you here. Nice to see you. Hey up. Thank you for your tippy donations in the last stream as well. I really appreciate it. We're going to do, I think, a Sunday scroll through of the tippies. I was just going to set the scene though quickly and say that there's been some sad stories in the news, and I've been feeling sad about the sad stories in the news, and that's indicative to me that my reduction of my I take metrazapine for my mental health. I've been reducing it, so that's going to make me feel like sad, isn't it, in a way? Well, like not as depressed as I used to, hopefully. Going to taper off that metrazapine, get back to being antidepressant free, but on an even keel. But I notice as I taper, when things like the news start to make me feel really sad, then I'm tapering too hard, I'm cutting it down too much. So that's how I feel today. It's alright, I can just, moderate that dose, just tweak the dose a little bit, get through Christmas, we'll moderate, we'll get through the tough dark months, won't we? I was thinking, I made a Mental Health Monday video about how we should be planning for these dark months, getting out to see people a bit more. Well, that's the new COVID variant, getting out to see people. Oh no, the COVID, the masks. So that's a bit, and I personally have not felt today like, yay, made my plan and now I'm getting out there, and I haven't felt that. I felt a bit more like, down in the dumps. So it's cool, feel these things, they come and go in waves. So that's just setting the scene of how I feel, and we're going to push on. Like when things like this, now's the time to sort of, maybe hibernate a little bit, maybe get the blanket, the ice cream, maybe do that a bit, but also to sort of, grit my teeth a little bit, be aware, be in the moment, be aware, and say like, I'm not going to fall to this. I'm not going to slip down this slippy slope. So we all need a bit of Jesus in our lives. So Metal Jesus, I've got my watch later list. Something else that we did this week, before we get on to that, something else that we did this week is I have finally done our stream. You'll see it there on the uploads, look. On the uploads, here's Ganji Axe Murdering, streamed 14 hours ago. Oh man, it sounds silly. It sounds like, what, I did a stream. You're a streamer, what do you mean? But actually, streaming on Twitch all year has been quite easy. But I learned a bit about settings in the computer, about hardware settings, encoding settings, hardware and software encoding. Although, to me, software is running on the hardware, so it shouldn't make a difference, but it does. Learned about that, changed the settings, got the YouTube stream working. I'm a Twitch affiliate, thanks to Capital K. Capital K dropped a huge sub bomb on us and turned us into an affiliate. Thanks to Snippies for her big sub bombs and gifting out the subs. We're still like Twitch and subscriptions is still cool for me. I'm happy to be on Twitch. That's where it started and it's grown as a streamer for most people and for me. But I do see that YouTube are putting a lot of effort into their gathering of a streaming platform, their production or whatever. And I want to make sure that we've got a foot in both. Obviously we upload to YouTube. That's our discovery platform. That's where I'm home, really, isn't it? So we stream on YouTube 2 days a week. We should do. Well, now we can. We've fixed it. Now we can. So the streaming schedule is actually going to start coming together. I've got to pull myself together and be here a bit earlier. I want to be here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to make sure we get that podcast sorted. I need to be up in the daytime more. Up and doing things. We're getting there. Everything's going good. So I just wanted to point that out, that we've got a live stream there, which I'm not going to. What happens usually is I do a Twitch stream and then I download that and then I upload it to YouTube, and along the way I start editing it, and then I edit it and put it on the other channels, the good bits. But for that, the point of the YouTube streaming is that, I don't know if I've got this the wrong way around, because Twitch is gaming and YouTube's chuffing, isn't it? But I'm going to do my chuffing like I'm doing today on Twitch, and my YouTube streaming is just going to be gameplay, no me chuffing, just the basic gameplay. With VR, I can't do much chuffing at chat. I can only chuff in the game. So, but we also need to finish Green Hell, don't we? We need to finish Green Hell. Well, there's a couple of games that we started that, because they're longer than a sort of week's cycle, then I didn't get to finish it. But the stream and its content started to move on. So I don't want it to languish. I mean, I do want to I think it's good to finish certain things. And like Green Hell's a really good example. I want to finish that game. But if I spend the time on stream just sitting here playing Green Hell, the stream's going to suffer. However, we've got this outlet now of YouTube gaming, whenever I feel like it, mainly on the days off from actual stream after a bit of editing, or in the evenings after a chuffy stream. Might just switch over to YouTube for a little bit and just play the game, so that we can finish it, so it's there, it exists, but it doesn't dominate this flow of this Twitch stream, which is Mental Health Monday every Monday. Tuesday I do the editing for that, so a bit of YouTube gaming later. Wednesday we should be chatting about something cultural. We should be, really. I don't know what gets into my head. This counts, what we're going to do today. 10 best games you should play. That counts. Art and culture. They're artworks, games. We might make our own list, who knows. Thursday, again, I should edit what I did on Wednesday and then play games on YouTube. Fridays today, look, just chuffing, just chilling, just chuffing. We did the serious bit, the main work of the stream, the Mental Health Monday and the art and culture. We did that in the week, didn't we? So now we can chuff. And I should be factoring in a podcast a month into that as of January, so we've got that to factor in. I want to start doing the vegan bits every now and then. But yeah, I'm just really pleased that we've got that live streaming on YouTube. It works. Didn't even drop frame. I don't know much about dropping frames. But check it, it worked, it was good. And the camera is much sharper. We've got this new lens now, which is great. However, do you know what I learned? The chuffers. I used to use the camera running through a program called Remote Viewer, so you don't have to use a capture card, you just use the camera as a remote viewer. It only goes to 540p, it's not HD. So to get the HD, you run out into the capture card, which I'm doing, 720p, but it's the cheap capture card I've got, it works. But now I can't change the colour balance on the camera from where I'm sitting on the screen. Now it's all behind the camera, and I can go around there and mess with it, but I'm over here. So I need to be over here to see what it looks like on my face. And if I look through the back of the camera, I can't. Oh, it's just, it gets...
Which we say a lot.
Just cheers, or some people say tar over here.
Oh.
Thank you very much for your tippies. I appreciate it, I really do. On Sunday, we will get the programme out and look through. I'll do it now, see if it comes through, because I think it should. But when it doesn't, it chuffs me off. Look there, it's not there right now. Why isn't it there now? Let's refresh it. I'll refresh it. Refresh. Yes! Yes! It worked. Thank you very much. Cheers for everything. Oh, thank you for everything as well. Like, you know, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here for the journey. So, yeah, we're in this together. We're in this together. Yeah, so that's the plan anyway. That I just, you know, I chuffle on at the start of stream for ages about what we're doing on stream. But anyway, so my face looks a little bit yellow. What I'm trying to say overall is that we're making the stream better so that in January we hit the new year running. And that's the same thing with our mental health that we talked about on Mental Health Monday. That's the plan. And I just wanted to sort of say thank you, as well as you say thank you to me. I'll say thank you. Because I think we're, like, you know, from where we started to where we're going to finish the year, huge leaps and bounds, and it's little steps. It's not all in one, like every week there's something to say, oh, this is a bit better, this is a bit better, this is a bit better. So like, I'm really pleased with that anyway. And so for chilling purposes, Friday, I'm going to do this stream now, and I talk for hours, and I want to be positive and uplifting. So I want to talk about the top 10 games everyone should play at least once, as Metal Jesus recommends. Yeah, I want to talk about that, and I'm not going to talk about the things in the news that made me sad, even though I think they deserve, like, I mean, everyone can see the news and, you know, the things that are sad. So I'm not the news, so I'm not bringing that to your attention. But like, for that reason, you know, we're not going over. I'm not going to be like just hyper chuffing. So I hope that after a couple of hours of this, I can walk the dog and then maybe do some gaming on YouTube later, which if I can fall into that nice relaxing schedule. That was the last thing I was going to say about it, was I'm not going to edit the YouTube gaming footage unless we make a video about a game and we use it as source material. I'm just going to leave it as it is on the YouTube. Saves me an extra job of editing, because, you know, I've got enough chuffing jobs already. So now, without further ado, let's have a look at the top 10 games everyone, and I mean everyone. That's the National Lottery, that's an advert. Don't get caught up in that. I don't know about the lottery. Now, you see, now you've got me caught up in that. I don't know about the lottery as to whether the lottery is a good idea, web browser. I don't know. Is the lottery a good idea? Someone will have to work it. I told the doctor, I was chatting about it to the doctor, and I told her that I didn't think the lottery... I don't know, the doctor's not there to talk to about the lottery, but we're just chatting. So the lottery came up, the subject, and I said, I don't play the lottery. I think it's a silly waste of £1 every week. But, you know, because I think it was because we're talking about odds. We're talking about odds, weren't we, in the doctors, about, you know, what are the odds of me being this poorly or that happening, or, and, you know, she was the lottery. So, but then again, you know, how have I got much other chance of becoming? I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to pull an Elon Musk on you. I'm not going to suddenly reinvent like old sort of. I'm not going to suddenly attack established markets with modern technologies and pull the rug from under them before they realise the game is up. I'm not going to be able to. I'm just going to be a little entertaining and sometimes quite serious streamer, and then hopefully build a bit of a media project that's, you know, interesting and fun and can leave the world slightly better off than when we left it, than when we started, and that one day when I'm gone, people can still sort of look at it and say, well, that was, you know, that helped me a bit. And if we can make ripples, then at least we're doing something good, aren't we? So maybe you should play the... What I'm saying is, maybe you should play the lottery, because I don't know, man. Maybe you should. That's an advert for it, though. So maybe you shouldn't, because, you know, they're just advertising it. They do give the money to good causes. They do. That was a good system with it. I was impressed that they give a lot of money to good causes. That's true. Who knows? Look, here's Metal Jesus. Now, you can't hear him because I've got him muted because he's going to do the intro. Now, every single video... No, wait, before we get started, he's Jesus, I'm Jesus. What's going on here? What's going on here? He's Metal Jesus Rocks. So he's not really Jesus. He's not really Jesus. He's got a bit of the... Oh! There we go. I disappeared. That was... See, straight in with the technical difficulties. Straight in with the battery change, you chuffer. That's not a good sign, is it? The battery's already run out. Got 2 of them. You got 2 of them? Got 5 of them, mate. Got 5 of them. I'm not a I'm a professional, aren't I? I've got 5 of them. Oh, don't be out of focus now. Oh, you chuffer. Chuffer, I've switched it to manual focus and set it up. Now you have to do the old hand focus trick. Look, there's my hand. Hand in focus, yeah, hand in focus. Face in focus. Should be anyway. Close enough. I bet it's not. Right, look. He's not really Jesus, he's not. He's just got long hair. You can see from his face that he's not really Jesus. You can tell. Whereas me, I'm ASMR Jesus, and I've also got long hair. But, you know, Jesus probably wouldn't tell you that he himself was. Oh no, he would, wouldn't he? He went around telling everyone. Anyway, in the Battle of the Jesuses, we're both quite Jesus-y, both quite Jesuine. So, but in terms of an intro, I love it when they put these little segments on videos where you've got shows you at the bottom there what the different sections are. Here's a little top tip if you do YouTube videos. If you do that, the way you do it is it will be in here. Where's your little thing? Where's your little... Why can't I put it down? This little thing. I should be able to pull this down and show more. There you are. Show more. The chapters there. Do little chapters. Write them in your planner there. Write them in your... Write them in your description. Links in the description below. Write them in the description. Comes up on the video, doesn't it? That's cheeky. Look, little cheeky sections. If you're going to do that, though, bear in mind, no one's going to watch your intro, are they? Who's going to watch the intro? You better do some special stuff in your intro. You better have something special going on in your intros if you've got a minute and a half. I do 20 minutes of chuffing. What are we on now? Let's have a look at the stream. 17 minutes. I haven't even got into the 20th minute yet, so don't even think I've even started watching this video. 20 minutes of chuffing I do. You'd have to put that on the start. Chuffing. 20 minutes. And people just skip straight past, just like me. Oh, I'm sorry, Metal Jesus, but I just want to know about the games, mate. Just want to know about the games. So, we're going to start... Oh, RPGs, platformers. Oh, they're in different categories. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically say, have you played it? Have I played it? If so, do we think it gets on the top 10 list? This is top 10 games everyone should play. Doesn't mean it's top 10 games that are the best. Because I'll tell you what, my top... All right, big face already. We're never going to get into this, big face. My top 10 list of games everyone should play would include games that I think they should... Am I in focus now? I bet I'm not in focus. You can tell if you move closer and you get sharper. That's focus. Now here, out of focus. Right. There's my hand. My hand's not my face, but it's similar. So I can focus on it. Like that. Like that. Just like that. Probably moved it when I'm... You chuffer. Further away now. See how difficult it is? It's got autofocus, but if you do it on autofocus... Then you get up to switch it to manual so it stays there. Then it goes, it's like you got up, I'm focusing. You're like, don't focus, I'm coming over to change your settings. Anyway, so that'll do for today. That'll do. I'll lean back. I won't mess with it, I'll just lean back. So, so what we're saying is that these are games that everyone should play. Now, if I wanted you to play, let me have a think. If I wanted you to play Fallout, I think, because this is a great example actually. My sister and me, we played a lot of the same games when we grew up. A lot of the same games. But then for a little while, things went a bit different. I went off to university and got a PlayStation. She played a GameCube while I was playing on a PlayStation 2 sort of thing. You know, things, you know, feel like. But we come back to the same point now, almost virtually. I've got the VR headset. But we've come back to the same point of both play the Switch, both play the Fortnite. Both we enjoy the same games. So she hadn't played Skyrim. She'd missed out on that PlayStation 3, whatever, I don't know what number. Xbox, I was playing that Xbox with Skyrim. She wasn't playing the Xbox. She had a Wii. She had a Wii U. Do you still sell your merchandise with the vegan sign? Yeah, it's on the YouTube. I assume it is. I set it up. Yeah. Do you know what I'm like? You know what I'm like, right? I deal with the questions. I like it. I like questions. What I'm like is I'll set something up like an Etsy shop, which I've done about twice. And on the day that you're setting up, it's like all exciting. I'm doing it. And then a week goes by and I've forgotten the login. And then that's it. That's the end of that. I can't log into that anymore. I just can't. But with the vegan stuff, yeah, what the YouTube said is, it said, give us your details of your image. We'll do all the rest. And I've longed for a long time to do t-shirt prints and ideas on t-shirts. I've got a few more. The ones that I've got, also, they're like logos. The vegan one is the Virgin logo, but it says vegan. So that's clever, isn't it? It's clever. I've mixed it up. It's sort of officially, it's hopefully a fair use parody. But the other ones are a bit more close to the bone. They're a bit more obviously McDonald's, and like I like it. I've got my own version. I've got one that I can wear for me at home, printed off the internet. But to sell it on YouTube, I'm a bit like, oh, I hope I don't get in trouble for doing this. But I will. Why not? It just got to dig out the file on the computer, find where I did it in Photoshop, made my own logos, send them to YouTube. You know, all that business. But they set it up in the background. So you send this thing. Like, click the merchandise button, yes please, on YouTube, and it does it. Yeah. So like, and again, like, you know, the people who are big on these sort of things, they probably know all the ins and outs. And for me, I did that a few years ago. So I'm assuming, and it's just my assumption, that YouTube still, and it has to be on true binaural because you have to have a certain number of subs and whatever. So it has to exist there maybe. But I'm assuming if you go on those videos, it still has that underneath. But I'll tell you something. I think I've sold one. In like the years that they've existed. So the other thing is, if you see like some, you know, if like you see this thing going off and, you know, oh look, 10 t-shirts, you think, oh, I'll do another one of them, don't you? But or actually not, that's not me either. That's not, even if I sold loads, I might just say to myself, well, that's lucky, that's giving me the money to go and do something else that I want to do. But I might not become a, you know, full-time t-shirt printer. But yeah, in theory they're still there, in theory. And they you provoke, it's little things like that make me think, God, yeah, I forgot about that. And you know, in the future, you know, if I was to get all this other stuff working on stream nicely, maybe we can get back to, you know, these other little bells and whistles that people have. I can think up some clever merchandise that you might want to own that is Ganji Puka Warrior Crew related. We were going to do that NFT. I've still got to get around to that. The NFT thing's a massive headache because you've got to set up. I was going to do both ends. I was going to mint some Ganji Puka Warrior NFTs, make them because we haven't got any little emojis. If you're a sub, you don't get any free pictures here because we haven't even done that yet. But the plan was to get some NFTs off this wonderful artist that we saw, that we liked the images, to buy them, to make our own, mint them. Then you could own the emojis as NFTs, like you could own them. And you know, it creates this like extra layer of like what we do. So the emoji, like that's the plan. It's so much, like imagine that I've got to now work out how to buy and sell Ethereum, set up an Ethereum wallet, open up a thing. You've got to send your ID to these things because it's like serious money things. Like whoa, steady on, like steady on. I kind of need like someone else to do it with me that knows all about it, but that's not going to happen. So we just get through Christmas. You know, we'll set up a podcast. But that's like an idea that I want to do. The other thing that I wanted to do with the emojis is that I wanted to make sure that we, as a group, found something that like can you know Poggers? Yeah, of course you know Poggers. Everyone knows what Poggers is, don't they? Because it transcended. It wasn't just like a private joke for us in stream that when you print it somewhere else, people just are like, what's that? It transcended. I'd like to be able to try and, you know, create a couple of the emojis, not all of them, but maybe a couple of them that attempt at some point to be transcendental in the or sublime in that everyone can get something out of them and say, like, that have meme potential, not meme potential like Poggers that, I don't know how to quite to describe this. Like, I think that they should be feelings or emotions that people want to express, that everyone can understand and share, that everyone at some point wants to express, that maybe aren't in the lexicon, in the language of the current emojis offerings, that maybe Pepe the Frog doesn't offer. So that, I've knocked the table and I hope it didn't mess up the microphone. But yeah, maybe some emojis that, you know, have an emotional function that could be positive in terms of mental health in some way. But that's a big conversation, isn't it? That's a difficult thought to have. How do you draw that in a little picture? I don't know. But yeah, they're all big picture, big things to think about. And today, like I said, my little picture things to think about are, how does my head feel? Can I get to bed and get up at the right time? See a bit more of the sunshine, walk the dog a bit more, do a little bit of exercise, feed myself properly, and get in a better routine, because I'm slipping. I'm absolutely slipping otherwise. It's like, this isn't Mental Health Monday, but this is just the truth of it, is that you don't choose when you're slipping, do you? But you see yourself, slipping. And I think sometimes what I have to do is I have to stay up all night. If I know that I've woken up at increasingly later times in the afternoon, then I just have to say, look, I'm breaking that cycle by staying up all night. But at the end of it, the hardest part, it seems stupid, but the hardest part is getting to bed. That even though I've been awake like 48 going on 52 whatever it is hours, the second night when it's like, okay, it's 10 o'clock, it's bedtime, I should be absolutely shattered now, I'm just like, absolutely not. And I could easily stay up all that night as well, and then it's really bad when you crash at the daytime of the third day or I don't know. So yeah, I'm just rambling now, but that's the point, is that big picture stuff happens when little picture stuff is more stable, and every week we are stabilized. Like it sounds silly, but the things we're not going on about in this 20 minutes chuff at the start is, I've got the video working, I've got the camera working, got the lights working, got all this just working these days. Early days of stream, I couldn't even sync up the mic. So we're getting there, and if we can, if you're the same at the moment, yeah, exactly. So if we can recognise that, and then just take a step back and say, look, big picture things will come, but sometimes we have to worry about just the smaller picture things and make a bit of an effort. I know it sounds horrible, doesn't it? I don't want to make any effort. I only enjoy making effort on the things I really enjoy. Like, I'll make endless effort on Hearthstone. I would have, I'm giving up Hearthstone now. It was bad for my mental health, but I would have made endless effort at the things I enjoy. But the things I don't really like, going to bed at the right time, chuff off. You can chuff off. That's an effort, though. It is. It takes some doing. Takes some conscious effort. And so yeah, we're going to concentrate on some little things from time to time. They're important, aren't they? And then when those little things are stable, then we can build on them. So yeah, that's all good. So with that in mind, what are the top 10 games? And these are top 10 games that you must play. I was going to say, my sister, but I got distracted. My sister, I wanted her to play Fallout. I wanted her to play Fallout online with me, like 2 players co-op online when it came out. Even though it was rubbish, even though there were problems with it, I wanted us to play that as a cooperative experience. But before that, I wanted her to play. When I got her a Switch at Christmas, I got her a couple of special games. One was obviously Zelda, Breath of the Wild. You got a Switch, you got Breath of the Wild. That's a Breath of the Wild machine, isn't it? But I think she'd already played it on the Wii U. I think we got it on the Wii U before we got it on the Switch. But the other thing that was important was, it was important that I got a Skyrim. Like, she hadn't played Skyrim. She hadn't played it. So it was important that I got a Skyrim. It was important. And I did a couple of cards. One of the cards said, "It's dangerous to go alone, take this for the Switch." Oh, that was the little card that it said on the Christmas. And then for Skyrim, I wrapped it up, and the little card on it said, "Ho ho hoverkin." And I said, "Read that." And she said, "Ho ho hoverkin." Now, if you've played Skyrim and I said to you, "Ho ho hoverkin," and then gave you a little gift, you'd think, "What's in this? It's Skyrim," wouldn't you? She didn't get it. That's a shame. But ho ho hoverkin. So I gave her the Skyrim, and she opened that, and she was like, "Oh, Skyrim, I've heard about this. It's supposed to be good." And it was a bit old by then, whatever. But like, what she hadn't done was, she hadn't played she'd seen Call of Duty and been like, "I'm not interested in that sort of thing." First person shooting. Skyrim is first person. It's bows and arrows, melee as well. But when you're not acclimatized to certain franchises of gaming, when you're not a Skyrim or Bethesda player, and you come from it from a different angle, you might look at it and say, "That's not really my sort of thing. I don't like those sort of FPS games generally, so not into that." And she'd sort of managed to swerve Skyrim in some way, which in a way was like a blessing in disguise, because then she had this wonderful experience with the Nintendo Switch and Skyrim, and that was the gateway. So Skyrim was like the gateway drug. It was like the gateway to a world of Bethesda games. Then, oh, I've seen you playing these games. I didn't realise Fallout was like Skyrim. Because all the things I enjoy in Skyrim, they're in Fallout, aren't they? Fallout's the same engine. It's the same thing. It's like, so instead of me putting on this list, top 10 games everyone should play at least once. Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas. Like, you know, you get to New Vegas, well, you might not these days. They should remaster it and remake it and chuff it out there, shouldn't they? But you get to the, like, some of them are gateways to other games, and I expect that the person who finishes Skyrim then says, you know what, I'm open to all these other Bethesda games if they haven't before. So for me, something like Skyrim goes on this list, but something like Fallout doesn't, or the other way around, if that's the way you want it. If you think that Fallout's better than Skyrim, then you can have it the other way around. I think Fallout was out before Skyrim, wasn't it? Oh God, my memory now. I mean, I remember sitting and playing 50 hours of Skyrim. I had to come home from work, like I was hairdressing. I had to come home from work, knackered, and then get my dinner, and whack on the Xbox. And for a while, Skyrim even overtook FIFA. For a while, Skyrim was even more important than FIFA. And I remember a couple of days when you get these, I'm taking 2 days off. Taking 2 days off because I want to sit and play Skyrim. I didn't say that at hairdressing. Didn't tell anyone at hairdressing that what I was doing in the evenings was just devoting my time to slaying dragons and becoming an all-powerful. There was one point where it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and there was one point. Oh, hey, chuffer! Don't chuff. Hey, it's okay. I think Shakima just scared you coming up the stairs. All right. There was one point where, you know, I was playing on one of these, you know, days off, where I had a day off the next day. I was playing till 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd got to the point where I didn't want to finish the main campaign because I wanted to do all the side quests. But you know that one where you don't want to finish the main campaign because you want to do all the side quests beforehand. So I was doing a side quest collecting mushrooms in this underground place underneath the dwarven cities. Like this vast underground place. It was before the DLCs as well, or maybe I got one of the DLCs and they were about to release it. And I was just like, hang on, wait. It's 5 o'clock, and I used to drink at the time, remember? So I drunk everything in the house. One of those evenings where, you know, you just, because I'm still playing on the Xbox, when I finish that drink, I'll just get up and go and get another one from the fridge until there's no more in the fridge. Oh, it must be bedtime. So it was one of those evenings, and I was like, I'm collecting these chuffing mushrooms. Like, I'm the most powerful being on the planet. Like in Skyrim, you know, in Skyrim, I'm like this superhuman. Got all these weapons. I've got 3-4 houses crammed full of snowberries and glowing mushrooms and potions, and I've got axes, and got people following me around and like queuing up to follow me around. I've got Mole the Lioness as my wife, and I've got a slave in each house. A slave, some sort of housemaid, slave in each house, and they're all like, you know, I'm the giant king of Skyrim, and I've crafted the Civil War campaign so that it falls the way I wish it to fall, because I'm the true king of Skyrim, and I've got all these voice powers, and I can, you know, defeat anyone and smash anything, and I'm going to go and kill the biggest dragon ever in some sort of netherworld. And also I need to collect 200 mushrooms, and I'm not maybe I shouldn't be picking these mushrooms. Maybe my housemaid should, or, you know, my house Carl. Maybe my house Carl should be picking my mushrooms for me, because I'm the most powerful man in Skyrim. So I shouldn't be wasting my time on these mushrooms. And then it made me realise all of a sudden that there were certain aspects of the game that, whilst enjoyable to the completionist in me, I'm a whale. You know, I have to finish everything, and I want to get all of the things. Whilst that's enjoyable in certain aspects, it taken. It gone beyond. There's like a spectrum. There's like a bell curve. If you're really enjoying it, then you're not enjoying it so much, down, until at one point it's just like you're getting ever decreasing returns on your enjoyment. And I was like, this is the point where I should put this down and go to bed, because it's 5 in the morning. I don't need the mushrooms. I'm the dragon slayer. Chuff the mushrooms. I'm the dragon slayer. Let's either go and kill the dragon and finish the game, or stop putting it off You know, don't stop putting it off. Let's go and finish it and get on. And the thing that I really need to do in terms of RPG mechanics was to finish my hairdressing course, get a job, become a self-employed hairdresser, you know, hand out flyers, do it. And being awake at 5 in the morning collecting mushrooms in Skyrim wasn't helping. So I don't know, but the top 10 games everyone should play. Here's another point to make. Should I put Hearthstone on this list? I should even get on the list. We should start the game in a minute. Start the list. Should I put Hearthstone? Because I loved Hearthstone so much. I think there's so much to learn about the predatory mechanics of gaming for young people within Hearthstone. If you can be disciplined enough to not put money in, or to not let them put money in. But really, it's just a sort of drug addiction. Like, it's like saying top 10 things everyone should try at least once. Like, should I offer that you should try crack? 'Cause you'd really enjoy it, but you wouldn't feel good in the later stages of your. You'd probably curse me. You'd probably that chuffer who told me to do crack. Oh, I wish he'd never done that. I curse him. I curse his name. Probably curse me, wouldn't you? You wouldn't say, oh, thank you, Scotty Hottie, for advising me to do that. So that's the same with Hearthstone. It'll drain your wallet. It'll make you feel mentally unhealthily unwell. If you want to be really good at it, you've got to do that ladder and that grind. And I'm not going to go into all the mechanics and stuff of why. We'll talk about that another time. But the bottom line is that Hearthstone's not healthy, not financially, not mentally, not for your time. You know, it doesn't respect your time as a player. But it's got these things that make you really want to do it, and like these little dopamine rewards from these little like incremental rewards. So yeah, like I would advise people play Hearthstone, because I'd like them to see, understand and learn about what goes on, and then be able to step back and say, no thanks, not anymore. That was an experience I don't want to repeat. But and also though, you might get loads of enjoyment for all the hard times, you know, for all the difficulties, for all the chuffing money that I've given to Blizzard. I have got my entertainment out of it. It did get me through some tough times when I was feeling bad. It gave me a few goals to work towards when I was feeling down. So there is, you know, some positive in it. It's not going on the list. It's not going on the list. Just smoking off camera because it's a bad example to the youth of the world. Right, let's get on with the list then. Let's see what they've got to say for themselves. Let's have a little go. Let's pause the Skyrim music and let's see what this has got to say for itself.
Coming up with that is so hard because, you know, there are literally 40 years worth of great RPGs to choose from.
Right, Metal Jesus is saying there's 40 years of... can you hear that? Yeah, you can hear that. He's saying there's 40 years of the best RPGs to choose from. So good point. I think he's got a good... he's done a good thing here. Look, separating into different categories. So I don't have to tell you every RPG. I could just tell you a really good one that would really, you know, wet your whistle. And then you'd be like, I want to play some more RPGs. But we're looking at sort of JRPGs here, aren't we? Are we? Or we're talking about general RPGs? Because there's a difference here. You know, these are they Japanese RPGs? Not being racial about RPGs, but where you've got like little people and then you tell them button A to do this attack and it's your turn, and then button B to do this attack and you've got HP. And I find them a little bit more tiresome and repetitive than like a Skyrim RPG, where I'm ARPG, action RPG.
Real classics like Ultima 4, which
never heard of it.
Just happens to be one of my all-time favorites, as well as Planescape Torment.
What?
Yeah.
Is he trying to? This has had a million. Hang on, this had a million views. It was done in. When was it done? Why didn't it tell me when it was? It was just my brain with the not being able to read things. 9-month-old comment a year ago. Like, it's not that old, is it? Why won't it tell me how old it is? May 22, 2020. Yeah, it's not that old. Lockdown old. So, you know, this should still be relevant. So maybe he's deliberately choosing these games that I've never heard of at the start to point out what a massive gamer he is compared to us. Like, you know, when they have these rooms. I mean, you might have a room like this, so I'm not dissing it. I know some people who've got rooms like this. I'm not dissing it. But I have had, over my lifetime, probably a similar quantity of games. But I had to go and give a lot of them to... makes me feel like crying now. I had to go and give a lot of them to the... You know when you go and give them the games and they take some money off your next game? And you're like, you hand over your games and they're like, oh, we'll give you £5 for that. pre-owned, that business, and then you're buying pre-owned games. I had to go and buy pre-owned games a lot of the time and hand over some of my old games. We should do a video about that, shouldn't we? Because it wasn't necessarily the right choice for all of it. I had Bully. Bully's worth more now than it was when I sold it to GameStop or whatever they're called. But not everything was worth keeping. I've got a load of games there in my other room that I could do you a shelf like that. Wouldn't be as impressive, but a lot of them are rubbish that I can never even play again because the console doesn't work. So, and I don't know what I don't know what value they're going to hold in the long term. So I use them as like placemats and coasters, and if you need to prop a book up. But I've got a few. But you know when they do this at the start of the video and they've got like everything that they've ever owned computer-wise all on the shelves, and you think like I haven't got the storage space in my house. And all that, like, I know it sounds silly, but it's excess money sat on the shelf, isn't it? That over the years I would have had to, like, just to, because I'm not rich, wouldn't have been able to leave that sat on the shelf like that. Would have had to, if they're offering me £5 a game, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. That's enough to buy the next game 5 times over on the couple of shelves there. So it just makes me think, like, oh, are you trying to rub it in? Are you rubbing it in what a big gamer you are? I suppose you are, aren't you? It's like kudos for being a gamer because you're here talking about games. It's like you've owned the stuff, so you must know your stuff. Something like that. And then you've got a few things on top that people have that are random, like he's got the speak and spell there. It's just his games room. Don't read into it too much. It's just his games room.
But that is so hard because, there are literally 40 years worth of great RPGs to choose.
It is your video. You can't just tell us it's hard to do it because it's my video. I've decided to do it. So let's see how you make.
Choose from. You have some of the real classics like Ultima 4.
Never heard of it again. So is he like trying to rub that in? Because I've never heard of it. Because I am a gamer. I've been around these games all my life. I might not have been on the cutting edge of PC gaming over the last 10 or 15 years, but I had a Spectrum ZX Plus 3. I had a Spectrum ZX Plus 3. 256 kilobyte computer,
which just happens to be one of my all-time favorites, as well as Planescape Torment.
I've never heard of that.
You have all those Baldur's Gate games.
So are these games that I should have, because he's supposed to be top 10. I'm a bit confused now. We've already had 3. I'm not considering those games that I should play because he's got to at least outline that these are the games that you should play, because I haven't got time to play all of these games.
You have all the Final Fantasies, of course.
All the Final Fantasies.
Of course, you have more recent ones like The Witcher and Skyrim.
The Witcher and Skyrim just chuffed in there.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
KOTOR, I've played that through to the end when I was supposed to be working.
Etc., etc. But for my money, every gamer should at least try playing Mass Effect.
Ooh, that's out of all of that, Mass Effect gets the choice. Mass Effect 2, Xbox 360. I never played that. Still new enough to play it, isn't it? But could you imagine me playing that on stream?
2 at least once.
At least once.
Now you may be thinking, why Mass Effect 2? The middle game.
You may be thinking, why Mass Effect?
In a trilogy. That seems kind of weird, right? Well.
Yeah, that's a point. Yeah, I didn't realise. Well, no, it's obvious to me. It's just because it's the one with the best mechanics that works. I bet Mass Effect 1 was on the previous system and just not as good.
Well, the thing is that BioWare took the lessons learned from the original game and applied all of that to the sequel. And also, too, they did something smart, and that is you don't really have to have played the first game to enjoy the second. And
that's smart. It is the way with lots of games, though, isn't it? It's, it would be absolutely foolish to inbuild into your game a mechanism whereby if you hadn't played the previous one, you couldn't enjoy it. Get on with it, Scott.
I know that from experience because while I played the first game, my wife didn't. She jumped in on Mass Effect 2, and she just immediately had a great time with it. The thing about Mass Effect 1 is that the combat was a little clunky. That would be my biggest complaint with that game. They completely fixed that with the second game. Plus, the characters, the relationship.
So it's one of these where looks to me like a bit like Gears of War, where you kneel down behind things, pop up shooty, kneel down behind things, pop up shooty.
The thing about Mass Effect 1,
I guess there's some sort of RPG, story choice going on.
Is that the combat was a little clunky. That would be my biggest complaint with that game. They completely fixed that with the second.
Do you know what? I'm a bit surprised they never put any sort of duck and cover mechanic into Fortnite, because it would seem to fit there, wouldn't it? You know, the ability to choose to cover.
Game, plus the character.
I suppose people they create that themselves, don't they, in Fortnite with the peaking system and all that. But
characters, the relationships that you can have in that game, the story in the second game, the options that you can choose with your character and where you want to go in the story. It's just epic in every single way. If you've played Mass Effect 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's...
I'll tell you what, I probably wouldn't play it myself now with the sort of, I don't know, with the time distance between it and now. But certainly not for stream. But I'll tell you what I would do is I'd consider watching all the cutscenes streamed together, you know, strung together in a movie to get a feel for that story. Possibly.
It's a near perfect RPG. I just think it's so good, and literally everybody should at least play it once. Now,
there's the lottery again. Just mute that so you can't hear it. Near perfect, near perfect, near perfect. It didn't look open world to me. RPG for me has to be open world. I have to be able to make my own decisions. It's role playing, isn't it? It's role playing. So I have to be able to make my own decisions. I can't just have to do this level and then that level and then, you know, shoot like from A to B, get to the end of this. It has to be open world for me if it's an RPG.
the platforming games, and you know,
2D platformer, right? I'm going to suggest one, and then I'll see if it gets in there. Mario. But come on, I mean, there are loads of good ones, and there's some remarkable... some of the people at Stugan made platformers, and one of them, Dandara, we've got to play on stream. It's a really interesting game, and I want to get them interviewed on stream as well as showing you the film that we made. But it's... you know, it's built on... All of them are clearly built on Mario, aren't they? Mario's the one. Mario. And then you play that, and if you like playing a 2D platform, you have fun on Mario... then whoa, hang on, because there's a lot, you know, a lot to look at. But in principle, the first one, the main one, it's got to be Mario, hasn't it?
you know, again, you have just decades of great games to choose from, including some of my all-time favorites like Metroid Zero Mission.
No, that's no. That's a Metroidvania. You can't have that as a 2D platformer. It has platform elements, but surely that's a Metroidvania. I mean, it sort of coined its own... That and Castlevania created the genre. So, yeah, Metroidvania, mate, not a platformer.
You have the Sonic games. Of course, you have
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country. You have the Shantae games. You even have the original...
Sonic was a platformer, yeah, but it had all these sections that were just sort of flow, didn't it? So, sticking to the loops and then you go on and... it's not as platformy as some other games, is it? But I guess it counts.
Super Mario Brothers, which you
There you are. That's the one. That's the one.
argue that yes, everybody should play that game at least once. But for my money, I think that actually Super Mario Brothers 3 is just 2D platforming.
It is, right? That is much, much better than Mario 1. But that's what I was going to say earlier, is that you're going to play Mario 1, you're going to say, this is good, I enjoyed this. And then someone, oh, well, you can play Super Mario Bros. 3. Oh, I see. Oh, it goes to number 2 and number 3. I'll enjoy playing number 2 and 3. If you play Super Mario Bros. 3 first, and then you play Super Mario Bros. 1, you're going to be like, oh, this is like a downgrade. Where's Super Mario Bros. 4? Like, you don't want to go backwards through them because you're removing elements, like additional elements. Mario 1 was the basics. 2 was a different game entirely that was sort of shoehorned in because it was going to be I can't remember the name of the game. It was going to be something else in Japan, number 2, but they wanted a Mario 2 and they had this game. So like, can we put Mario sprites in? Yes, thank you. Okay, we're done. New game. And so it's good, but it's different. Super Mario 3 is the culmination of... you know, it's like peak Mario. I remember, right, when I was a kid, we had this in Rubery, which is a little suburb of Birmingham. where my nan and granddad lived, we used to go to this toy shop, and in the toy shop, they'd have the toys that I was familiar with, the toys, and they'd have these boxes and posters, and there was no toy. Like, obviously it was the games, wasn't it? The games, but there was no toy. Like, there was no, like, where's the, you know, the man with his arms and his action man, or the lady with her legs and her shoes. I didn't go for the ladies' toys when I was a kid. Look, anyway, I'm not trying to be sexist though, but I used to see these things, and I remember seeing this image of Super Mario 3. I remember seeing it. I believe Super Mario 3 was the big release at the time my parents bought me a NES that year. I believe. I think that was, you know, sort of selling package. Well, no, because we must have had the NES when I saw this. And I was like looking forward to it being released. Yeah, I must have had the NES already, and I could see these posters for Super Mario 3, and I was looking forward to it being released. But the strange thing about it was you only saw like that image, and I was like, I wonder what, you know, because there's a whole game behind it, isn't there? In the toy shop, you couldn't pick up the box and shake it, and what's in the, you know, I had to wait to play the game. And that bright yellow flying Mario, you know, I remember that image so clearly. I remember stood in the toy shop, seeing the copies either of the boxes of the game or pre-sale it might have been, or whatever it is, and the poster, and being in the toy shop and being like, wow. Yeah. Obviously, we got Super Mario 3 at some point, and I did play the chuff out of it, and it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Still stands up to play today, doesn't it? So yeah, that goes on my list, but I'd have had Mario 1.
Perfection. So what do I like about this game so much? Well, again, I just think that they took the lessons learned from Super Mario Brothers, the original, which again is an
That's unfair. It's a ridiculous.
Now you may be thinking,
whoa! I clicked the thing. I didn't mean to click the thing. It's a ridiculous comparison. I'm not going to let him make the comparison. I'm just going to skim over it, because you're talking about a different system. Like, Mario was made for the 8-bit NES, and this was made for the 16-bit Super Nintendo. So it had like so much more available to the developers in terms of power, sound design, color. You know, it had more, and they didn't just take the lessons learned. There wasn't like any, Mario 1 was bad, like there were some problems with it and we ironed them out for Super Mario 2 and 3. It wasn't that. So like, Mario 1 was good, and there's just some limitations on what they could achieve because 8-bit first attempt system. But Super Mario 3 was, you know, it's the NES again. Sorry, what am I saying? It was designed for the NES, yeah. I sound like an idiot now. No, but it was designed for the NES. But okay, but get this: it was designed for the NES at the late end of the NES's existence, like with so much more development knowledge behind them. I guess is a better way of saying it. So much more advances within development, I'm sure, behind the scenes. Super Mario 3. It wasn't the SNES, was it? What was Mario on the SNES? Oh, Mario on the SNES was Super Mario World, wasn't it? Yeah, of course. But yeah, it was. So this at the time was so impressive, actually. Yeah, I remember this at the time was so impressive because it pushed the SNES. Sorry, all these things mixed up in my head. It pushed the NES to its limits. So it is a fair comparison, but again, not a fair comparison because you're talking about years later from the same company. So they didn't learn lessons; they just got better. So yeah, it was a lot better though.
From Super Mario Brothers, the original, which again is an absolute classic. If you haven't played it for some weird reason, you totally should.
Oh no, he's even saying it. You totally should play the classic original. So there we go. We're gonna have the classic original. That's what we're having. First-person shooters. See, now we've made a list of 10 things. Maybe I would have a different list. You know, we've got third-person action adventure, 3D platforming, sports, racing. Or maybe I wouldn't have racing on. Maybe you don't need a racing game. Maybe you can play GTA, enjoy the racing within it, and have a slot for like. We'll see what we think is missing at the end. FPS shooters should go in though, I suppose, shouldn't they? And if it was me, it would be the original Call of Duty or the original Medal of Honor. The one, the Call of Duty where you went over Normandy. Might have been Call of Duty 2, where you went Normandy and did D-Day. When you did D-Day, that was for me, that was the meaningful one. It started to get a bit silly after that. We started to do some strange stuff. We started to do some like modern stuff. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was like historical. There was a point. There was a little point. Do you remember, right? The whole point of the Call of Duty franchise and the Medal of Honor initially was that they were going to just sort of be like kind of more real, weren't they? They were like not war simulators, but they had historical accuracy and context, and you could sort of even learn something from them, get a viewpoint. Because in a world of first-person shooters where everything was like mad zombies, like they were trying to bring a bit of, I want to say realism. Realism is not the right word in today's context, where you've got virtual reality and other things. But yeah, I suppose we could say Doom, couldn't we? We could say Doom. Top 10 games everyone should play at least once. Doom, first-person shooter, Doom. See what he says.
Moving on to first-person shooters, you just have a ton of great games to choose from, both single-player and also online.
Oh, GoldenEye. GoldenEye.
For me, I actually don't play a lot of online first-person shooters, so for this list, I'm just going to keep it to single-player games. But that said, I do really like the Call of Duty series. Of course, BioShock 1, 2, and 3 are amazing. The Deus Ex...
You can't just, that's cheating, mate. It's cheating. You can't just say all of the Call of Duty series. There's like a bajillion of them. They're quite different. They've changed over the years. BioShock 1, 2, and 3, yeah, you know, they're all really good. But which one should somebody play? If you want to get someone into first-person shooters and you're going to give them one in their hands tomorrow, one. Not all of them. Not, oh, these are all good trilogy. Just one. What's it going to be?
games are some of my all-time favorites. Also, some more recent games that I've really enjoyed is like Titanfall 2, of course, the new Wolfenstein games. You have classics like GoldenEye, and then you have some other games like Far Cry. But the one first-person shooter that I think everyone...
Far Cry is more midway point between a like RPG and a... It's got that Ubisoft... Oh, God. You know that Ubisoft thing where... So you start off in a little area and you like unlock this thing and it unlocks these things, and then you sort of know what's going on, and then look like the next area and it's got like a tower and you unlock that and then it shows you unlocks the things and it shows you what's going on. That was the same in Watch Dogs as well, wasn't it? In Watch Dogs, you unlock a thing and then it shows you the area and then you do all the little missions and then you move on to the next area, do the tower, unlock the thing, and it just gets a little bit bigger each time. And it's like, I'm just doing the same thing over and over, really. Like, that's not how RPG life should work for me, really. But it's an interesting game loop, and it can be satisfying. It can definitely be satisfying because you can sort of close off a little area, move on to the next. It's like levels. It's like somewhere midway between real RPG and a bit more on rails with levels. And I don't know if I count it as an FPS, even though it is FPS. The action in it is FPS, same as Skyrim and Fallout. I don't call them for first-person shooters. I call them RPGs, ARPGs, action RPGs.
Should at least play once is Half-Life 2. So why Half-Life 2? And
just comes out with something random.
Again, it's a tough one because, you know, the genre of first-person shooters has really evolved over time. But the thing is, I think Half-Life 2 was sort of like a stake in the ground. There was first-person shooters before it, but then there are first-person shooters after it. And what
Why?
I mean by that is that Half-Life, you know, was in the first person, but it was also heavily story-driven, and it had great gameplay mechanics. It was the first time I really saw a good use of physics in a first-person shooter in a way that was both satisfying in the shooting, but also in the puzzle solving and getting, you know, where you needed to go. It was just so clever in its design. I also like, too, the fact that, yes, it's a first-person shooter, but then it's also survival horror at times.
Oh, survival horror gets me on edge. This looks like the sort of game, exactly the sort of game. In fact, I've seen there's some sort of Half-Life thing on VR. I wonder if it's Half-Life 2 or original Half-Life, but it's exactly the sort of game that the Oculus Quest 2 system could be banging out. You know, they're taking this era of games and they're turning them into immersive VR games, aren't they? By, you know, just basically putting you in it. Putting you in it. So if it did that, if it was in VR, I'd definitely have a crack at it. But as to now, whether Half-Life 2 should go on our, you know, top 10 games I should play, maybe, you know, over Christmas into the new year, I don't know, maybe not.
Plus, they also had really memorable characters that people still talk about and care about today.
So I've got my...
Fair enough, though. You know, if it's got good characters and Here's a chuffing great ad. I got Grammarly because I never went to school, so I didn't know how to spell and what grammar is and where the word should go. Here's a top tip: save yourself some money. Don't bother having to, shell out for Grammarly. Just go to school.
So
Being
there's
mean.
been
I'm being mean.
or renaissance of some great and memorable
Puzzle games. I'll tell you what. I played a puzzle game last couple of days ago on the VR that was one of the best games I've played in a long, long time. I recorded it all so that we could watch it together on stream, do a video about it or whatever, but they didn't record properly because it crashed the computer. So what we're going to do is, over the weekend, this weekend, my plan, best laid plans of mice and men, do Afgare, but my plan is to bring that game to you live as a walkthrough, because I've already done it now, so there's no puzzle for me, and I can't read your chat while I'm in VR, but I'll just do the walkthrough. You'll just get to see it. It'll be great. That's a nice experience for this weekend in a nice 3-hour chunk in this room coming up. But what would I recommend? A puzzle game everyone should play at least once. I mean, I think Tetris, is it going to count as a puzzle? If it's any of this sort of rubbish, all that going on, Dark Side feels WWE Superstars mobile game. No, I think Tetris. And should I play Tetris on stream? Probably not.
like Puzzle Quest and Monument Valley.
Oh, Monument Valley. I've got Manish Mistry, who is part of the team that created Monument Valley. I've got him in the Stugan film. I've got an interview with him. He talks about meditative games, about how games have grown up. And that's a game that I could definitely consider playing on stream. I don't know how to get it from your phone onto the stream, but definitely.
And The Room and The Gardens Between and Peggle. And then of
That
course
looks nice. That looks nice. It looks like it's got some... The thing about games that are not new... this is weird with stream, right? I want to play all the old games because I like old games. And there's a point when they get old enough that they're retro, where they even start re-releasing them, that you play them and it's like, you know, you can play them on stream because it's old retro. But if you're just playing something that's like a year old or 2 years old, you're just not on the cutting edge and no one gives a monkeys. They've already seen it before. But to me, it's a bit new. But I think it's okay to play some of those games if they've got a bit of story and we can draw something out, make some sort of comment on it. And I'm never going to be the streamer that's like, oh, the brand new game is out tomorrow. I've got it preloaded, ready to go. 12 hours of live gameplay from day one. I'm going to complete the whole thing and play it twice. Like, I'm not hell-bent on the marketing end of the new releases, but when things that we know are good are worth their time, I want to put some time into them. And like I said, for stream, Tetris is a great game, isn't it? Tetris is a fantastic game. I've left the music off while I'm talking. I'm going back between the two, aren't I? I'll have music and I'll go back between the two. Tetris is a fantastic game, but it wouldn't make really for a good stream at my end with me chuffing and just doing Tetris. But this sort of business, with the people walking around, stories going on, yeah, that's still a good stream. Doesn't matter if it's a year old. It's my take on it, isn't it? So that looks good.
Go back in time and you have Dr. Mario and
If you're going to be getting that out,
stuff like that. But honestly, let's be real here. Every gamer should at least play Tetris.
Thank you.
Once. So why is Tetris so great? Well, you can probably write an entire college thesis on this, and I suspect many have, but in my mind, it's because the game is just so simple and so addictive.
I'll tell you what, 50-50 for me about, because I know Tetris is really good. It's really easy to play, obvious to most people how to work it, to get into it, and yet the high level, what's great about any sport game, you know, anything like that, is that it's got an easy access point. Anyone can get into it and just, you know, start playing and enjoying themselves and racking up a bit of a score. But at the other end, at the top end, the very high end, there is still room for very good players, very high skilled strategies to push that high end. There's like a whole spectrum of abilities and gameplay that you can work your way through and aspire to, and possibly never reach. Whereas some games, if they're easy to solve and then they're solved, they don't have that high-end replayability. So Tetris has got that. It's beautiful for that reason. But I wonder to myself sometimes, because it went with every Game Boy, with every NES, like it shipped with everything, didn't it? I wonder if a different game, equally puzzly and similar, a similar sort of game, would have been as popular and had that longevity simply by merit of being shipped with every Game Boy and everything. So, like, because when I got Tetris with my Game Boy, I played the chuff out of it, but that's because I had like 2 games, that and Mario. So, you know, when I wasn't playing Mario, I was playing Tetris. If they give me a different game free with the Game Boy, then I'd have played that. But what was interesting about Tetris was that of all the games that I've ever, because I was a little kid with my Game Boy, and my parents, like my mom used to play Game and Watch, as a, you know, to see what I was playing with, to, you know, to have a little go on it. And with the the Game Boy, my mom would play Tetris and be better at it than me. And like, she'd quite happily sit and play Tetris for a couple of hours if she was on holiday in the sun by the pool. You know, where's your Game Boy? Let's have a go on that. No, the game on any of my systems has been playable by my parents, but Tetris was. So it has some other special quality, doesn't it? It has some other special quality. Yeah, it's a good choice.
It's a puzzle game that really anybody can look at and kind of figure out fairly quickly what to do and have a lot of fun doing it. It has this addictive, you know, feel to it where you can play it for a few.
I'll tell you what was magic about Tetris. While looking at that, it's reminding me. It's funny, isn't it? Because that's the colour one, but I had the green and whatever, you know, the original Game Boy. But I still remember it like being vivid. But it wasn't. It didn't look like that. It was green. But the thing I remember that was a magic about Tetris is the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. Got my Switch now. Oh bless! Look, I've got a Switch now. That's got like Tony Hawk on it if I want. I had one of the Game Boy had this facility where you could plug a cable into the side, and you could run that cable into your mate's Game Boy, plug it in, and you could play 2-player, you know, linked up with certain games. Now Tetris shipped with every Game Boy and had a 2-player cooperative, no, it wasn't cooperative, was it? It was just competitive. But 2-player competitive, link cable mode, that was like the height of gaming. That was the height of gaming when I was about 9 years old. It was so magic. It was like we are interfacing 2-player mode. So yeah, it's like Tetris, yeah, it had something special, yeah.
Minutes, or you can play it for a full hour.
Shut up.
And now I want to recommend an open world game.
Ooh. That's, well, if open world is one topic, there's Skyrim. You've started already, so you finished Skyrim. It's a bit tough though, isn't it? Because open world should be a bit broader than just, you know, I want Skyrim for the RPG, and I want something different for open world. Hang on. I want to blow my nose. I feel like I'm getting a bit nasal doing all this talking. Talking. That's loud. That'll wake the dog up. Yeah, open world. What else can you suggest for open world? I reckon Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto, big game. If you're doing a list of games someone's got to play, Grand Theft Auto should be on it, really, shouldn't it? Which one? Probably just the most modern, like he was saying, most up to date, gives you the most facility. But maybe not. Maybe just one with Nico. Nico was probably the best one, wasn't it? Whichever one that was. Oh no! Second battery. Now we're on to battery swappage. Now we're juggling batteries because I've got 5, but. I have got 5 batteries, but only 3 of them are charged. Oh no, I've got to focus it again. I'll focus it again on my hand. Focus. Focus. Hocus focus. Focus pocus. Right, I'm on. Yeah, open world. Grand Theft Auto should go on the list, shouldn't it? The one with Nico in it. Grand Theft Auto V or something. IV probably. Grand Theft Auto IV. Open world. What have I really enjoyed? I mean, Minecraft's open world, isn't it? Loads of people would vote Minecraft on there. open world enjoyment. The first Red Dead Redemption, not the second one, which I found a bit slow, but the first Red Dead Redemption hit the right note at the right mark. They did a zombies version as well, which is quite an interesting game. A nice way of reusing the assets and creating another adventure with it. But that first Red Dead Redemption was at the point, because it matters, right? It's difficult now because, yeah, maybe the second one. The problem is, right, is that the first one was at a point where it was at a cutting edge when I got that, and at the cutting edge at the time, it was maybe a bit of a sequel to Grand Theft Auto, so there was a lot of expectation that I had that was met, and there was a lot of expectation that I didn't have. Like, I didn't expect to see ray tracing and all that, because back then it didn't exist. So it met all the expectation and a little bit more. It wasn't as big. I hope for, when I'm playing open world games, one of the hopes I always have is that it can just be bigger and bigger and bigger than the last. Fallout did a really good job of expanding the size of the map every time. Maybe not such a good job of filling it, but a good job of expanding it. And Red Dead Redemption didn't have a bigger world than Grand Theft Auto. It didn't have a bigger world. There was lots of desert that was a bit empty, and you could only play the first top half of the map for ages. But it did a really good job of filling it and making it feel real enough. Like, you didn't want to just ride off into the desert because most of the good stuff was happening around here. So really, Red Dead Redemption 1 met all those expectations. Was an excellent, enjoyable ride. Great story. Didn't mess me about. Like in Red Dead Redemption 2 when it killed me and, oh, now you're someone else. I was like, well, I should have been him from the start because he's the one that I'm doing the sequel for, you chuffer. Why did you make me be this other chuffer and then kill me? You're just chuffing stupid. Don't mess me about. I'm going to say Red Dead Redemption for my open world game. On the proviso that we can put Skyrim in the RPGs.
Obviously, some games I've enjoyed a lot are Skyrim. You have the Red Dead Redemption series. You have the 3D Fallout series. Of course, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Breath of the Wild? That's not... It's that open world game, is it? Oh, no. Breath of the Wild's one of my favourite games ever. If you're going to make a list, top 10 favourite games you've got to play, now it's coming to me. You've got to play Breath of the Wild, but before you do, play Ocarina of Time. And you probably should start on a Game Boy with that first Zelda on the Game Boy, because that was those little pieces of Triforce on those little pieces. Play that. They're my top 3.
One is a game I absolutely loved to death. And then, of course, you have a little bit more exotic options like...
Is that a game that they just showed me then? Because it looked very, very realistic compared to all of the games that I've been used to playing over the course of my life.
Exotic options like No Man's Sky, but in VR.
No. Come on. No Man's Sky, even in VR, cannot stand up to the... It can't raise itself to the heady heights of Grand Theft Auto and Skyrim and No Man's Sky. Come on.
However, the game that I think really nailed that open world vibe in every way is Grand Theft Auto 5. And I'll be honest with you, it's really hard for me to pick this game over the others because each one of...
It was the bigger one, this. It was the bigger one, right? And it's got more polish and it's bigger and you could do more stuff and it's more interactive. It's big, yeah. But the one before with Nico, even though it's on the previous engine, was like at the cutting edge of what we could expect at the time. Big as could be at the time and was crafted so well. I think doing the 3 stories that interweave is clever, but I don't think it works for me. I like being one character. I like being able to put as much as myself into a character as I can, but within the Grand Theft Auto universe, I understand we tell other people's stories, and I like to get a feel for those people, and so make my choices based on their choices. Sounds stupid. It's RPG, isn't it? But the latest one, it just... I think... It didn't hold together as one cohesive piece as easily because of this jumping between the 3 characters. It was a clever device, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel as attached to any of them individually. Maybe I've forgotten his name. Our main protagonist, not Trevor, not the mafia man, the other lad, the street lad, who has a has an upward character arc from lower status to, like, you know, higher status throughout the game. Maybe that character. I suppose it gave us more of characters to identify with. No women. You couldn't play as a woman, could you? That was weird. But yeah, I can see why.
Of them has their own merits, their own style, and they're almost perfect in every way. But
I
really,
mean, look
Grand
at it.
Theft
Yeah.
Auto, I think, just nailed everything.
The thing is, though, if you're bigging it up, this has nailed everything. What it did originally was it broke the mold. Like the first Grand Theft Auto, I remember was a two like top down. I remember being in the recording studio when I was about. This must have been I was about 14, maybe 14. I did my work experience from school at the local recording studio, which was an absolute blast. And while I was there, one of the bands was in and they were recording, and when the others weren't recording, they had Grand Theft Auto on a PlayStation. They were playing it. It wasn't this. It was top down 2D, like running around, and even then it was breaking the, you know, the content mold of like the content, what's in a game, what you're doing in the game, was causing headaches and, you know, scratchings of heads and some consternation in the press. Rockstar. It was a British game as well, I think, and then when they made it, you know, 3D like this, it broke the mold. Because before, I mean, what you were basically getting in Grand Theft Auto that you had been sort of salivating for and wanting for such a long time was a bit of a realistic world and the ability to just be chaotic within it. Grab the car, drive it where you want. You don't have to follow Batman up. Like I remember, oh god, now making me think. The Spectrum ZX Plus 3 Batman. There was a level where you had to drive Batman's car, and it wasn't a driving game. It was a platformer, but there was a level where you had to drive Batman's car, and it was such a chuff of a level. I used to think I wanted to just drive Batman's car somewhere else, but you can't. You have to follow the. You know, remember Driver? Driver is a bit open world, but when you're on a mission, you follow the chuffing track. So with this, the ability to just do what you want when you want. You know, just breaking the mold like that, just saying you make the game. Obviously there were missions and there was a plan, but for the majority of us, just the driving around being chaotic was 80% of the initial fun. And then once that had worn off, you've got tummy rumbling. Once you've got that, you know, wore off, you've got the game itself, and then you go through the game itself and intersperse your. It's like it allows you to create your own gameplay loop. I mean, it's an RPG, isn't it? An open world RPG, so that's what it's doing. But at the time, it was so groundbreaking because it allowed you to just kill some time messing around, driving around, shooting some guns, no object, no purpose. And then if you want, you know, you can grind the missions. And if you don't, you know, if you're bored of doing the missions for a bit, you unlock a new bit of the city or go to a new area. You want to just drive around and have a look. You know, yeah, it broke new ground for those reasons. So I think, yeah, Grand Theft Auto latest one is great, but the early one has got to be. The early one's got to get in there in terms of games everyone should play at least once. I'm really pleased they've remade it. I don't know how it runs. I was going to wait for it to come out in VR because I can't buy it over and over again. This annoys me as well. I should be able to wave my old copy at them and say, look, I've already bought it once. Let me download it again, because how come you're not letting me down? Like, I've already paid for it once. Don't let me pay for it over and over again. But if you only, because again, yeah, if you play Grand Theft Auto latest one, and then someone said to you go back and play the old one, you go back and play the old one, you think, oh, it's a bit rubbish. So maybe play that first, get that feel. Wow, this is quite cool. Look at what I can do, and then you'd get all the more benefit from seeing the updates. Racing. I don't think a racing game would get on my list other than Mario Kart. Oh, what am I saying? Mario Kart.
It's one of my favorite genres. Well, here we are.
Mario
Kart. I
Kart.
had to make the decision.
When you play,
I tell you what, this is the third time I'm getting lucky with the lottery adverts, aren't I? Feels like something's calling to me. Feels like the lottery's talking to me. Maybe I should put a lottery ticket on this week, and I'll get rich, and then I can stream all the time. Okay, thanks very much, lottery.
And the first one, of course, was a little bit easier for me. I had to choose between realistic versus arcade racing games, and
No. I get what he's saying. I know these people, and I'd love it if I had one of those simulating seats with they're quite expensive, the rig with the steering wheel and the, you know, really realistic virtual racing. Yeah, I get that, but that's not the average gamer. Most of us have had a couple of racing games on our PlayStation or something, and unless you're like really into cars and racing, which is like a separate hobby, remember, from gaming, separate, like the racing itself on the systems is not priority number one for most of us, I think. I don't know, maybe they sell quite a lot, but having said that, Mario Kart is a game that surely everyone, and I'm not talking, you have to start in the N64 version for me on that, N64 Mario Kart. Everyone should have had a good old crack at that and enjoyed it, shouldn't they? Everyone. So for me, Mario Kart. Don't know about this realistic versus sim or whatever. Like, getting very niche now, and I think that I appreciate these games. I think they're fantastic works of engineering, but for me, driving fast is just a bit scary. So.
And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I definitely lean towards arcade, even though I do enjoy.
Oh, Super Outrun. Super Outrun. Do you remember the arcade of Super Outrun? Do you remember the big Sega arcade of Super Outrun? There was a rally one, wasn't there? Sega Rally. Oh, Sega Rally. The big arcade of Sega Rally. Do you remember that? I'm going to have to get that up on the screen now. Oh, man. Do you remember that? Sega. Come on, the buttons. Come on, the buttons. Sega Rally. And I want the actual arcade. So I'll spell arcade slightly differently and Google will work it out. That's the chuffer. Open image in a new tab and let's have a look at it. Look at it there in all its glory. You're talking about one racing game out of all the racing games you should suggest people should play. You should suggest people should play. Bruce Forsyth now. You should suggest people should play. The one game that you should play if you want to have a feel for racing on a computer game is this. There's no one, and I guarantee this, no one in the sim racing world, the arcade versus reality, you know, it's what he just said, no one will argue. No one will argue. This is the game that we put forward into the Hall of Fame, that we say top 10 games everyone should play. Before you get your special steering wheel at home, try the one out at the local what's it called? The Cherwell services. You know, the motorway services. You come off the motorway and you come off the motorway services, and what used to happen with me, if you're a kid, there'd be one of these at the like in America you've got arcades and the arcade. Oh, it's not like that in the UK. In the UK you've got one of these at the cinema, and you go to the cinema with your dad and your sister. You get your telling off, you get your popcorn, you sat down, you watch your film, you have your telling off, then you leave. Before you have your telling off on the way to the car, you go through the. Oh, can I play on one of this? Can I play on this? Can I play? Dad does not want to stay and watch you play on Sega Rally. Dad doesn't want to do that. Dad's watched. He sat through. You didn't realise that Dad hated the chuffing kids film in the first place. You thought. I mean, we used to go to things that were less Disney and more like we like Jurassic Park rather than Aladdin. Do you know what I mean? So that Dad enjoys it as well. But Demolition Man. You've been to see Demolition Man, right? And so. But you want to stop the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles machine. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles machine. And this machine, the Sega Rally. That was the one, wasn't it? The Sega Rally. You weren't allowed to play on it. Dad wouldn't let you. Because you don't want to stick around at the chuffing. And I'd be like, there's a bar next door. Can you go to the bar and I'll stay here and play this? No, that's not happening. I'm not leaving you here at the cinema on your own. Get in the car. I'd be like, I want to play Sega Rally. So you get to see it, but you wouldn't get to play on it. And then the next time you get exposed to this in the UK would be you'd be in the car, you'd be on the motorway with your parents, depending on your situation, with your parent, and you pull over because mainly your sister needed a Wii, or maybe your dad needed it. Maybe you needed it. I wouldn't want to go for a Wii at the motorway services. You need to have a Wii before you get in the car, because you'll need to. I used to listen to them and I used to try and go for a Wii, but you can't tell when you're going to need to go. So sometimes you need to. I need a Wii. We're going past. When's the next services? When's the next services? So the reason you go to the services is for the Wii. You're not going in the services to buy things from the shop, to get things from the McDonald's. You're not going in the services to mess about on the machines. Everything's got coloured lights. Everything's flashing. All the sweeties look nice on the pick and mix. We're not getting them from here. They're expensive. Get back in the car. So you'd see the Sega Rally and you wouldn't be allowed to play on it. The only other time as a child, I'll move up the age groups. Don't worry, we're going to get to the point where I can play on it in a minute. But the only other 2 times you would see these machines as a child, for me, for people of my generation, when I were a lad, the only other times you'd see these machines were, one would be when you were on holiday, potentially. And both times were on holiday. One was on the ferry on the way on holiday. If you went on a ferry, you're on the car ferry to France. If you went on the car ferry, you'd see that they'd have a room with these in. They'd have a whole room of it on the car ferry. You'd see these. And there'd be no excuse then. We're on holiday. I've got my own pocket money. We're on holiday. We're in this ferry for like an hour and a half. We're going to the bar, we're going to get some food. I want to go in the machines, but there's time for that in a minute. And they think that there won't be time. They think you'll have your food. And it was funny, we went on the ferry and the ferry listed and the spaghetti went in my friend's lap. Well, it was an adult, went in Tony's lap. Whoa, the spaghetti went. It was funny. But you want to go in here and play on the machine. So eventually, after the meal, when they're sat at the bar and they're having the drinks, and they've still got another 30 minutes, 40 minutes before this thing's going to chuff him or get there. All right. There's £2 going, or like, what was it in those days? It was like 50p's, 10p's, wasn't it? These days it's pound coins, isn't it? Back then it was 10p's. Here's 10p, go and play on the Sega Rally. And so you'd get in, you'd sit down, you'd have a race on the Sega Rally, and then the noise would go, do, you gotta go. And you'd be like, oh, I wish I could stay here playing Sega Rally. Could people please go in there, in the back in your cars now? And you go, oh. I want to play Sega Rally. So, and the football one, the World Cup football one, the Sega football one. Oh, that was good. Oh, it looked so good. Didn't get to play much. You got to play a little bit, and then you're off again. But you dream of the time when you were growing up and you could just choose to go and play Sega Rally and put as much money in as you want and sit for as long as you want. Nowadays, we don't do it. We don't tend to do that as grown-ups. Even though as a kid, it was like the dream. So Sega Rally. And the only other time that you'd be exposed to this as a youngster would be on the actual holiday, if you were lucky. If you were lucky, maybe. Most of the places I went on holiday, somewhere in the resort, if it was like abroad, then they might have, not a games room, but maybe in the hotel they'd have the beginnings, because this was early days with this sort of stuff, they'd have the beginnings of a games room, where it would be like a snooker table and a darts board and something in the corner that should be plugged in that's not like Sega Rally. Or they might have I remember once on a Spanish holiday, there was a little bar by the pool. It was one of these sort of like all-inclusive. Oh, no, it wasn't all-inclusive. What am I saying? It was because we had to take a suitcase full of tinned food. It was self-catering. We had a suitcase full of tinned food. The next to the little bar, what I think of in my brain as a room was actually, now I'm a grown-up and I think about it, was like an alcove. But they had like a couple of arcade machines, so I got to spend some time with my 100%ers on the machines there. So if you're lucky, one of those machines might be something good. Like one year it was Double Dragon, and that was a good year playing Double Dragon with this lad called Andy from Wales, who was a little bit older than me. He was like 2 or 3 years older than me, so he was better than me at Double Dragon. So I put in the money, he put in the money, we played 2-player, and then he'd be playing and I'd be playing, and like he'd be winning more, but I'd be playing as well. Co-Operative, Double Dragon. We completed the game, I think we could. I had this memory of us like playing, like, you know, putting all the 100%ers and getting right to the end. I don't know if we won, probably didn't win, but you know, in my mind it was like we completed the game. I got to levels I'd never seen before. Andy from Wales. You know, you make your little friend on holiday, don't you, when you're a little kid. Anyway, Sega Rally. So then, when I got a little bit more grown up, when we were doing fencing, when I was at secondary school, when we were doing the old fencing, we used to drive around in a minibus at the weekend going to fencing competitions, and we'd go to, I don't know, far as field as Scotland sometimes, Bristol, London, whatever. Go to the fencing competition, all in the minibus. Load of teenage fencing lads and lasses, and lasses. The fencing club. And we were on this minibus, the chuffy minibus, but this time when it's like services coming up, there'd be an allocated, look lads, and lasses, don't get sexist on me now, Scott, come on, don't let the patriarchy seep into your conversation now. There'd be an announcement, we're going to this services, it's coming up in half an hour, this is the one we're going to. You don't get to say, oh, I need the toilet now, can we stop it? We're going to this services, it comes up at this certain time. There's the cat on the radiator now. And so we'd all know about it, and we'd all save, if you were careful, you'd have saved your 50p's, your pounds. This time, you're 14 to 17 years old, you're allowed to go in there and do what you want. The coach who would drive the bus, the coaching team, I was going to say the bus driving team, but I meant the coaching team. The coaching team, the 3 or 4 adults that were with you, they would, they'd say okay, be back at the bus in half an hour or whatever it is, and therefore it's up to you. So you could just, it wasn't like you just have to go for a wee and dragged away. This time you could go to McDonald's if you felt like it. You could spend your £2 on the Sega Rally. You could. You absolutely could. There's a couple of us, not always, but at this point there's a lot of options now. Sometimes I'd be in that shop buying a copy of FHM. Loaded magazine. But quite often there'd be a little chance of a game of Sega Rally. There'd still be a time limit on it. But this time your choices aren't being made by a parent who does not want to stand over you while you play Sega Rally. I haven't even got into the mechanics of the game, how good it was, have I? I haven't even got into that. Just the desire that you had to play these machines. Just look at it. I mean, look at it. That was, back then, that was bigger than any telly that we had in the house. There were 2 of them side by side. Not all computer games were multiplayer. And certainly not all arcade machines were. But there were 2 giant tellies there. 2 tellies, bigger than the telly in my house, running a game that was more powerful. I had a NES, a SNES. That looked more polygons. Look at it, polygons and steering wheels and pedals, flashing buttons, gear sticks. I mean, look at it. It's the shiznit, isn't it? Sega Rally, man. Sega chuffing Rally. So, it doesn't matter what came after. Skyrim's finished. Look, I got so into Sega Rally. Skyrim finished. Doesn't matter what came after. Doesn't matter what you can get on your Xbox. Because nowadays, the beauty of the Xbox, like I said, on my Switch now, I've got the equivalent. I can have Sega Rally on the Switch. I can have that. Probably the equivalent. Look, one of these games. Much more powerful, much better. I can take that outside if I want to. I can play it in the garden. I can take it upstairs when I need to go to the toilet. I don't have to stop gaming to go to the toilet these days. As long as you can maintain your... while we're playing Fortnite, I can't build and go to the toilet with both hands. But anyway, look. Yeah, that's good. But you don't get to sit in it. You get to sit in Sega Rally if you build your own arcade machine at home or buy one of these days. So it's still elusive, isn't it? It's still its own special thing. And if that was your first experience of a game, a racing game, when you were playing your Game Boy and your NES and dreaming of the future, it's still got its own unique quality that even today, unless you do that high-end PC gaming rig chair, you're still not going to quite... You can get a little steering wheel at home, but look, it's a big telly, Sega Rally, sit next to your mate, and you're both racing. Yeah. Still something special. So whatever they produce, what's your top 10 game everyone should play at least once? Sega Rally. Some of us never even got to play it at all. Sega Rally should be played at least once. And then all these other racing games could be judged against that. The golden standard. Does it come with a massive chair and a massive telly and a great big steering wheel? No. Do you have to pay thousands of pounds to get that in your house these days? Still, yeah. Yeah. Does that come up to it anywhere near? No. No, that's just like Grand Theft Auto with a few extra levels and a gear stick symbol. No, that's Sega Rally, mate. Sega Rally. And I'm a Nintendo. I love Nintendo. It was a battle. There was like a head-to-head Nintendo versus Sega. I stuck my flag firmly on the side of Nintendo. But come on, that deserves respect, doesn't it? Sega did a good thing there. Skyrim, top 10 games. I'm not going to let him tell us about his
Some of the more
favourite.
realistic ones.
No. Just which one do you recommend? Which was your main one? Come on, Metal Jesus. Oh, he does mention Mario Kart. Burnout 3 Takedown. Get off. What are you on about? Burnout 3 Takedown. It just looks like Grand Theft Auto just driving around. Boosters. Actually, I'll tell a lie. I used to play a game or two like this. It probably was Burnout now I think of it. Where it was quite fun and satisfying. And there was like a bit more diversity in the driving challenges. I recognise this sort of business. I recognise that. But you still can't put that anywhere near above Sega Rally, so chuff off. Sega Rally and Mario Kart. Nothing else comes close. What's your next category? Because I've got to walk the dog, man. Sports. FIFA. Let's move on. Oh, Tony Hawk is a sport game. Chuff off, is it? Skateboarding's a crime, not a sport. Yeah, I'm not having that. Again, I'm not having that. I did get a good deal of enjoyment out of a snowboarding game for a good while. Probably was SSS tricky. But a sport game, the sport game is FIFA. Rumbly tummy. Followed up by WWF, right? But not the one you think. This one. WWF. And it's on the NES. So that'll do, won't it? It'll take that one. This one. Two, one. Skip ads. Is it this one? It is this one, isn't it? That doesn't quite look like how I remember it. I had a no. Yeah, it had a ring like this. Look, isometric. This is the wrestling game. I said this is the wrestling game. So you just have to accept it. This is the wrestling game. Really interesting, isn't it, that you've got the Ultimate Warrior there and the belt. They tried to put the Ultimate Warrior over as the successor to Hulk, and he never really managed to carry the mantle. But this must have been released at about that time, because it's not Hulk, is it? Look, Hulk was featured in that intro sequence, but look, there's no Hulk. He's Ultimate Warrior. You could do different numbers of wrestlers. You could do like multiple wrestlers at the same time. Drop the leg on him then. Give him the kick. Give him the kick. Is that Ricky Steamboat that he's beating up? Oh, he's put him in the sleeper. The sleeper, look. Got out of it. Brutus Beefcake, that was Brutus Beefcake. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who cut up the face of Davy Boy, British Bulldog, didn't he? The chuffer. Or was it somebody else who cut his face? No, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper. He cut his face. He cut somebody's face, didn't he? Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Then you fight Ravishing Rick Rude. All the top memorable names from back in the day. Ted DiBiase was in there. Big Boss Man was my favourite, and he was in there. There he is. Look, there's the Big Boss Man. This is the sports game, isn't it? In fact, it's making me want to play this again. It played well as well. It handled well. That's Andre the Giant. He was actually big. Look, it's awesome. And what was weird about it as well is it had a couple of wrestlers like Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant was a big name in the WWF, but he wasn't in the WWF as much at the time that I was watching it, but he was immortalised in the game. There are a couple more like that, like Rick Rude. You know, you wouldn't remember Rick Rude these days, but there's the Ultimate Warrior, you know, the Ultimate Warrior in the Hulk days. So anyway, that's the best sport game, so you just have to accept it. That and FIFA. Not going to look at any of the others. That and FIFA. Tony Hawk, top game. Probably goes on my top 10 list, but not a sport game for me, because as I said, skateboarding is not a sport, it's a crime. 3D platformer. What? You mean like Mario? You know, the one they all speed run, the Mario, the one they all speed run. None of these have really stood the test. Like, can you really name a 3D platformer that's like one of the best gaming experiences of ever? I don't think Banjo-Kazooie, but it wasn't like, you know, it was a good game. And a Mario Odyssey these days is a really, I did enjoy a really good game. Had a bit of nostalgia appeal to me though, didn't it? Like seeing Mario in a new way, but also harkening back to his past. And they did that sequence where they sang that song and I cried. Mario, da, 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 we've been around for me forever. Now I'm crying, me and Trevor. Da, 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 da. They had that. I mean, this was good, but I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't make me feel like Ocarina of Time did. It doesn't feel important to me in the way those other games did. Like, you know, it was a lot of fun. It was a bit of fun. I don't know. Can't explain why it didn't. That's not 3D. So he's gone with Odyssey. We'll have Odyssey. We'll keep Odyssey. Fine. Third-person action adventure. What the chuff are we talking about now? Getting way off what I remember and understand as the basic genres of games. Do you mean like it took Tomb Raider? I was going to say, are you talking about Tomb Raider? See what he's saying.
Special, so memorable. Well, it's right off the bat from the opening moments where you are dangling from a train off of a cliff, and it's technically...
Okay, I think this is those sort of games that are the ones that I don't like, so maybe I don't know them as that well. The Last of Us that we played earlier in the year on stream, which I hated, where you have to sort of press X to do X, press Y to do Y, and you have to go along the rails of the game. You have to go this way and do this, and if you don't, you failed. Back to the start of this bit and keep doing it until you get to the next checkpoint where you can move on with the story until you get it right. I like more agency and choice. I don't like sort of being forced down the rails, so maybe I haven't played as many of these sort of games. Although having said that, so many of the games that I must have loved over the years have been this sort of game, haven't they? Let's see what he suggests and see if I recognise anything. I don't know, man.
Like Mortal Danger, learning the gameplay mechanics. It's brilliant. But that's not it, of course. It's just that it has this great, like, epic story and these characters that you immediately, like, love and hate and want to make.
Isn't that like Grand Theft Auto? Isn't Grand Theft Auto one of those? The one with Nico in it? That's my choice then.
Sure that they can get through, and you love the dialogue between them, the motion capture. Oh man, plus also the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay is really solid. It's a mix of third-person shooting, so it's got this cover-based mechanic with great shooting, and then also it has the platform.
It's like that other game that you said earlier. Strategy, Hearthstone. Oh no, don't say Hearthstone. Oh god, don't you open this door though. How am I going to sit here and not talk for another full hour about strategy? I could speak on the strategy games for hours. We're going to be speaking on we're not going to be, I'm just going to be mentioning them because otherwise my brain will explode. SimCity, aren't we? All the hours we put into SimCity, all those cities we built, all those places that we loved spending time in. strategy, SimCity. Strategy. I've played a lot of any game where you had a sort of fog of war and you started out with your little settlers, and then settlers was one of them, wasn't it? I think it was called that. And then you open up the world a bit by building a little thing, and then you build another thing, and then you have another army unit, and you can now you can build a library, and you open up, you expand your thing, and you're crafting and your resources, and all of those games. Ooh, I love a bit of that. But one of the best was Wesnoth. One of the best strategy games ever was Wesnoth. The Battle for Wes. I bet it still exists, doesn't it? It was a free. This. Download now. It's free. Open source turn-based strategy game with a high fantasy theme. And you can get it on Steam and all that. And it is the chuffing business. I'm going to press the play on the trailer. And then I'm going to go and... I should watch it because it's modern. I bet it's... I used to play this back in the day when I was younger, so I bet it's improved since then. But I'm going to quickly grab some stuff from the kitchen because the stream's going a bit long. So I'm just going to grab the stuff while you watch this. No adverts, is there? No. Right, you can see what's going on there, can't you? It's turn-based, it's got tiles, but they're hexagonal tiles. You can't see them, but it's hexagonal tiles. And you've got your little units, and they're elves, or they're dwarves, or they're whatever. And then you've got your own map, and then you expand it. Your enemy's out there somewhere, and as you expand it, you find them, you fight them, and then your levels... It's got RPG mechanics in it as well, because as you level up, like as a character gains experience through battle and doesn't die, or gets healed, it can then level up to like a more higher level unit. And on the screen there, you can see at the top middle bit, you can see an archer in the woods there, a little archer. If he levels up, he could either become a super bowman, like a bowman, or he could become a ranger. He could become. You've got choices to make, so you can craft your armies the way you want. Craft's the wrong word, isn't it? Isn't it really in this context? Craft is the wrong word. You can upgrade your armies the way you want, depending on your playstyle and depending on the objectives and stratagems that you're going to be employing to meet those objectives. And then you get sort of attached to your little army. You get like, you can give them names, and like you get your one that's your first, your top rank unit, and then he's your little captain, isn't he? And then like, you've got your healer. She's always around, and you build up these. You don't want to lose them. They could die in battle, couldn't they? They could die in battle. So then you have choices to make again about whether it's worth sending your stronger units into battle because they could potentially win, but become damaged or die, or do you instead use more weak units that could die more frequently, but you don't care as much because they're weak and they're not your favourite units, and they themselves could eventually level up, and you could end up with more strong units. And what's so beautiful about the game is that in the main campaigns, because this is all done by people, like I said, free on the internet or whatever, isn't it? In the main you can play against each other online as like a fair online opponents, like the original Fortnite. Play a fair balanced game of Wesnoth against somebody online. But what I used to love is the campaigns were so good that at the end of some of the campaigns, all of these other units, you have this like method of recruitment. So at the start of a new level, a new map, you can bring back your old units from the last, so you keep building up this army. And if you want, you can leave some units in reserve. They don't have to get killed. They won't level up. But at the end, in the last sequences of the final levels, it kind of drains out your, you might have built up a lot of gold and some good units and some backup units and reserves. And you're thinking, why am I, leveling up all these other units when I've got, what's the point of all these reserves and things? It drains all those. It gives you a big fight at the end, and you're sort of like recalling all your archers and recalling all of your rangers. And the more you've managed to build up over the sequence of the RPG, of the more you've managed to do that, rather than just putting all your eggs in one basket, if you've created a nice diverse army, then it helps you immensely in that final stage. And then on top of all that, it's got this beautiful, in the meta, the way that a game can be solved. Well, I haven't looked on the internet at the meta of this game. I'm not sure about the perfect solutions, but with the hexagonal system, one character, one unit can be surrounded by 6 others. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the hexagonal system, surrounded by 6 others, and therefore completely surrounded, and therefore an opponent can't get to them to attack them. So what you tend to do, the way you build your little squads, is you put a healing unit in the middle of a protective shield, and then you go out to battle, and your protective shield battles, and your healer heals them from behind the lines, always protected, and maybe pops out to take a little kill here and there to up their XP, to pop an easy kill. So the hexagonal, I don't know why I've gone off on Wesnoth. It's just such a good game, and it deserves to be on this list, man. If it was a different shape of tile, then you wouldn't be able to create those. Like, for a central healer to be surrounded, they'd have to, if it was squares, they'd have to have 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people around them. So it just seems like the right balance. It seems like the right balance of units per healer that you can be effective at, but also vulnerable at. And it gives this really nice feel to the game world where you move around in these hexagonal squares, knowing, I can either move 7 or 5 squares, hexagonal spaces. But don't bang the table with your leg, it messes with the sound. But I do want to stick with my squad. I want to move with my squad. So you're then doing the mathematics of moving these characters around and reaching your objectives, and then they put some other clever things in. Do you know what? Wesnoth has got so much to say good about it, hasn't it? This other extra thing that's good is some of the campaigns are so carefully thought out that it's not simply a case of build up your army and overpower the opposition. Sometimes it's complete an objective, which you have to carefully balance your strategy in able to complete the objective and get to the end of the level and win the fight, sort of thing. You don't want to sacrifice all your units. Maybe it's important to. It's war. So they ask some really interesting questions as well from a strategic point of view. And it's got its own story, it's got its own narrative. Quite a basic, straightforward fantasy narrative, quite acceptable, nothing offensive, but carries it along really nicely. Yeah, but nothing to write home about either. I'm not going to be like, oh, the story was so amazing, but different campaigns, different stories. Yeah, it's a good game, that is. It's a good game. Where's Noth? Where were we? Strategy. Yeah, that was my pick for the strategy game, I think. Although it's a big wide world of strategy, isn't it?
Uncharted 2. I wanted to recommend a strategy game. Now, these are typically...
Ooh, really wants me to buy a lottery ticket this week.
A little fun stuff happens near you.
Chuff off.
Typically turn-based, but not necessarily. There are a lot of games...
Buying a lottery ticket means going in a shop for me, and I'm not prepared to do that.
Games out there...
Not even for all the millions.
...that are also real-time strategy games. But myself, I actually lean more towards the turn-based ones. The other thing to know about strategy games is that there's often a little bit of a learning curve, especially in the beginning, but...
I think learning curve's fine. You get simple levels, move on to more complex things. That's great. We should be talking about Dune as well. Dune. Turn-based... I'm not... Do you know what? I love strategy games, and turn-based and real-time is a debate within it, but to me is a non-debate, because I just think at one end of the spectrum there's something that you have to concentrate on more and be more, on the ball with, and that your clicking frequency makes more of a difference. Real time. So great. But at the other end of the spectrum, there's something that you don't have those worries with. And then there's a blend in the middle, because like look at something like Hearthstone, where it's real time, but it's turn based. So like you've got a limit on your turn, maybe. Is it real time? You can't interact with your opponent in real time, can you? No, it's not real time really, but I think you can get somewhere in the middle of that. I think you can, but I don't think it's that important to me. I think strategy game is a strategy game, and if I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying it for all those strategic reasons. And I guess I don't like the pressure of the real time as much. I think there's a limit on the real time that I can't go beyond because of my ability to move around the screen and drag this with my mouse and click and think. And I like not having. If you're doing strategy, I like to be able to strategize and rub my chin and have a think. So. Yeah. That
can be so rewarding because these games are often very deep. And this is where you'll find games like Final Fantasy Tactics, XCOM, the amazing Advance Wars series. But for my money, I think every single gamer should at least play Civilization once. During the 90s,
Fair
I
shout,
had a
mate.
job working.
Fair shout. And that exact one we had on our compact Presario 520. Shown you this before, haven't I? But let's have a look for it. Compact Presario. Thank you. Thought it wasn't going to come up then, but it did. It definitely did. It did exist. This is the bugger. Open image in a new tab. Let's have a look at it in big. So that was our computer at home. That's what I grew up with in the majority of... Like, the way it worked with the home PC system was Mom worked in an office job and was also studying for a degree as a single parent. So needed a computer for work in some context, but didn't... Like, we weren't going to be... Like, I had like I said, I had a NES and a Game Boy and a Super Nintendo, and that came out after... I got my consoles at Christmas sort of thing. That sort of business. We didn't also have a big powerful gaming PC, additional to that. What we did have is this, which was what was known at the time. It was a bit of a revolutionary time in computers, and people did want to have a computer in their home. This could connect to the internet in theory. It never did. That our box at home, we never connected it to the internet. I tried once when Mum was out. And I plugged it in at the phone line and all this business, but you had to sign up to AOL, America Online, and pay money, and I couldn't because I was a kid, so we didn't have the internet on it. But the idea was at the time that we wanted an all-in-one solution for families. So there's got the old disk drive. It's also got the compact disc. So it's got the old disk drive and the compact disc and the telly, all built in. The keyboard was a separate piece, but came with it, and it kind of did all the computer things. It did Windows. You could play Doom on it. I mean, I used to judge it by the games that you could play, didn't I? But that wasn't the purpose that it was bought for. So, but you could play Doom on it. There were certain, like, you could play SimCity 2000. I think my wire's hanging out because my headphones are all busted up. I need to try and get another pair of these. Otherwise, one day. I don't want to change my headphones. I like the way they look. It's part of the idea, isn't it? But anyway, I'm telling you about this box. So there were a few CD games that you could put the CD in, it would play. I had this thing called the Westwood Collection. So I had a load of games from Westwood that were old, but they definitely ran on the computer as like a box set. The Westwood Collection. Another time maybe to talk about those games, but yeah, I didn't have access to PC gaming as we know it. Kind of lost my point. Yeah, Civilization 2, but this game, yeah, we did have access to that, and there were a few games that you could sort of argue to your parents that were sort of like, it was easier to get your parents to consider buying Civilization the game on their computer. That, like, my mom didn't want to play any games, but she understood that we did, and that we got a new computer because the new computers can do this jazzy stuff, the new entertainment box. So it was easier to convince a parent to buy a game like Civilization than it was like Doom. Do you know what I mean? You can see why I can't. It's a bit historical and all that. So I don't know if I got this or if my friend Jonathan got this and lent it to me, or that's the way games used to go around. You'd have a friend who had a copy and they'd lend it to you with the disc and the code or whatever. I don't know. get it working on your computer, or maybe I bought a copy. But yeah, Civilization 2 on the compact Presario 520. I agree. That's a good. And this time he's doing what I agree with. Go in at the early stage, go in at the start. And everything else after that you discover will be magnificently steps better. But the core gameplay, the things that were good about it.
In evenings at a record store, and that afternoon I'd gone and picked up a brand new copy of.
The core gameplay doesn't change. That doesn't look like it used to me.
Civilization.
It's in widescreen for a start.
2, took it home and I was playing it on my 486 and immediately got sucked into this game in a way that few games have done. I mean, this game basically just melted hours away. It's the definition of just one more turn, right? And I remember because I looked up.
You used to move around these little squares. The units and everything were just little square icons, and they used to move, and all the roads were parallel and diagonal. Made up a really strict grid back in the day. It's not what it used to look like. And I would even argue that SimCity was probably a better choice than this, because this was good, but a little bit lacking in some way, because it offered the world and obviously couldn't follow through with that. A little bit lacking in some way as well. Honourable mentions. Hello.
A little bit, because there's so many.
Do you know what? There's been loads of adverts in this. I don't know if that's because I've been pausing it a lot, or if it's because Metal Jesus loves fucking adverts, but chuffing hell, not another one.
So the first one, obviously, I want to mention is
Pac-Man. Now we're getting Mrs. Pac-Man, not Pac-Man, but Mrs. Pac-Man. Just because modern world, no gender bias. We're going to put Mrs. Pac-Man. It's got to be Pac-Man. You can't have Mrs. Pac-Man on the list. It's Pac-Man, mate. That's the original. That's the one that. And even that wasn't my favourite of that generation. Again, talking of these machines, there was a time when we'd go on holiday for like Dad's squash club thing or something, and you go to a sports club and they'd have a Pac-Man, or like some hotels would, like I said, have a games room with a snooker table and an asteroids, and it would be a glass table flat, or maybe it was in the lounge bar, like a glass table. And sometimes they didn't have it turned on and plugged in because who'd want to play on the strange game machine that they bought, but only the kids. But they had these dark glass table things, and I was exposed to these quite young, and some of them weren't even that fun to play, to be honest. Like Pac-Man, I used to find it quite annoying. I didn't used to really enjoy it as much as in theory it was. It's a computer game, so it's fun, isn't it? But no, not for me, not as much. No.
It's Pac-Man.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working.
So I've got my essay written, but spelling and grammar, get someone else to do that with artificial intelligence. So how are my teachers going to grade between who should get the good grades and who needs to practice spelling and grammar?
I actually like it better than the original Pac-Man. That's why I'm saying that. So definitely check out Miss Pac-Man. Also got to do a shout out for Doom 2. Now, of course, I could have also shouted out Doom 1 and also maybe Quake, but what I like about Doom 2 is that, again, it's a first-person shooter, but it's just...
I did play a lot of that game, so fair enough, Doom 2. I'd said Doom myself earlier. And Dune. We should have had Dune in the strategy. That was the birth of all strategy games, wasn't it, with the spice?
Very simplistic. I feel like pretty much anybody who's even remotely interested in a first-person shooter can go and play Doom 2. These games, when they came out, really...
Diablo, dishonourable mention. Of course, Diablo, but dishonourable, because although Diablo is, I suppose, Blizzard North is slightly different from Blizzard, slightly, but come on, anything Blizzard put their dirty, grubby hands on from now until, I don't know, Bobby Kotick leaves... I don't know if it can ever be redeemed. I know people, good people work there though. Good people work there. They should quit and go and work somewhere else, man. They should just quit. Just like anything Blizzard's been. I don't want to give them any money or time because they're horrible people, aren't they? Really.
Have redefined role-playing games because they're so accessible. If you had a mouse and you could click the button, you could have fun playing a role-playing.
This was a game that I wanted to play, but I could never play because our computer wasn't good enough.
And that was so much different than the other role-playing games at the time, emulating. Just you saw still There are a ton more games I could have chosen, and I'm really looking forward to checking out your comments.
Out of all the Blizzard games, he dropped Diablo, but not World of Warcraft, which was like a seminal. MMOs didn't get on the list at all, but I suppose he did say that, didn't he? He's going to stick to the games you can play on your own at home. He did say that. I mean, I'd have to put Fortnite on this list as well. I'm going to do a little bit. I want to walk the dog, really. That's the next thing on my list. But I'm going to put a couple of honourable mentions myself in, I suppose. I didn't pre-plan this. I should have done. Over the time that we've talked today, I've mentioned some of the things I like, so it's okay. I can always come back and mention computer game another time. But I think the Game Boy and the N64 have not been represented enough, heavily enough on his list. I think that's the case. I think they were two of the most revolutionary machines. You know, the Game Boy Nintendo had the Game & Watch originally before the Game Boy, but it started a long tradition of maintaining that portability. What can you put on a handheld? Which for young gamers, so important. Not being able to, because we didn't have multiple tellies, and you know, I couldn't just set up my NES on the big telly whenever I want. The GameCube, yeah, it pushed boundaries and was better, and the Wii was boundaries and better, but you know, the way the leap between the SNES and I want to call it the Ultra 64, the Ultra 64, that leap was breathtaking and phenomenal. Yeah, and the time that we spent with those games, they were big. Is there anything else that I think should go on this list? Fortnite should go on the list, because it is so. Fortnite, Minecraft. I haven't played Minecraft myself. Maybe we should play that on stream sometime. But do you know what's weird? None of this list really has made me think, oh, I've definitely got to go and play that. Got to put that on my list. Dig that one out. None of them really. Quite satisfied with the alternatives I've put forward and the different journey I've taken. But good on Metal Jesus. It's not a bad video, is it? They're good suggestions. We all have different ideas, which is why I wanted to watch his video and make my own different ideas known. Not as like a negative, just as an additional, you know, an additional positive. And if you like, you know, if there's anything on that list that you have felt specifically I'm misjudging or misrepresenting, and maybe I should take a look at it on stream, then you let me know in the comments, and that's what we've done this for, is to see, you know, whether we should be playing these games. So you be good, my little podcast, you be good. What I might do after I've walked the dog and whatever is I might play some gaming on YouTube. If I'm going to play a game, if I'm going to put the headset on and play a bit of a game, then I might just do it on YouTube. But I'm also planning to do a full walkthrough of a puzzle game tomorrow, or the day after, maybe tomorrow. And I don't even know whether that should be on YouTube or Twitch really, so I don't know. So look out. You're just, you know, you don't have to look out. It's just going to be consistency that makes you look out, isn't it? So I'll be more consistent. You'll be good. We're working on, remember what I said at the start of this broadcast? We're working on the little things. I'm going to go and walk the dog now. You know, I'm going to go and I need to make sure, we've all got to make sure that we try and get a good bedtime sorted. Try for that bedtime, because there's less sunshine around, and we're going to have to try and get up a little bit earlier to see it. And we have to try. You know, we have to try. So you be good, my little puckos. You be good. And if you can't be good, then I'm going to make you play all of those games that he said and none of the ones that I said.